Call to order the November Public Works Committee. Does anyone know if Dan is in the building?
He plans to be here.
He plans to be here, okay. With that, we will first start with the consent agenda. There are 3 items on here. Does anyone want anything pulled?
I do. The engineering, which one? The C1?
C1, which is the engineering project
Yeah.
drainage, okay. Want anything else pulled? Do I hear a motion to approve the balance?
Move for approval of the balance.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. We will first do C1, if you'll read that, please.
Resolution amending a contract with HDR Engineering for the design of a drainage system improvement as part of 28th Street Drainage Improvement Project.
Mr. Montgomery, you may have the floor.
Yeah, it's a question on looking at the dollar amounts here. I see that it's a approval of an additional amount that's going to be with this. And I brought up last month, particularly with some of our professional service contracts. But then also a question here is whether or not we have the type of engineers we have on staff, because out of $340,000 allocated and $286,000 here, that was actually spent for the services. How is this being billed by hourly rates, or is this being done, how is that actually comprised of, that we have the overage of what was approved?
It's an hourly not to exceed contract amount. So as work has been identified that wasn't identified initially because of changes that the railroad requested or required, then we realized that the price was going to be higher than originally thought, which is the reason for for the increase in the amount.
Right, and then the other question about on staff, individuals we have on staff in engineering, because the question is that I would like to see is over a period of time, yearly, how many engineering contracts are we actually putting out and the cost of that, and what the cost would associate to have individual dedicated on staff. Would we have any cost savings besides contracting that out and then having somebody on staff doing the actual engineering work?
We can bring you a report on that.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Yes.
Is there a second?
I make a motion.
Do I have a second?
I'm not on the committee.
Oh, you're not on the committee.
I'll second it.
I'll
if
second.
you'd like.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise?
Abstain.
1 abstention. That's 2 in favor, none opposed, and 1 abstention. With that, we will now go to the main agenda of the Public Works. Item G1, please.
Ordinance renaming Linden Street to North Research Parkway, located in the East Ward. This item was continued from the May meeting of the Public Works Committee.
Paul, would you like to give us a 2-minute on it?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, committee members. I'm going to refer to some things in your packet there. The first one is this map here to kind of give the overall context. But this item is related to a larger project which you all are familiar with, the Research Parkway, the first bit of which was dedicated last month. And then the piece that the state is getting ready to do that takes that from Rams Drive to the south, goes through an interchange at US 52, and then ends back on South Martin Luther King Jr. Drive right near Diggs Boulevard. So as such, this will create a continuous street that goes from South Martin Luther King Jr. Drive all the way up to North Martin Luther King Jr. Drive. Linden Street then becomes the piece that is named differently than the rest of it. And that's what generated the need to do this street naming change, to have a continuously named street for its entire length for public safety response, service delivery, eliminate confusion and all that. As this was going forward, we and the Research Park chose the name North Research Parkway when they did the platting for this for the new street. They contacted the people along Linden Street who would be affected, most notably the Wells Fargo Linden Center, and they had no objection to the change of Linden Street to North Research Parkway. This came, as you know, to the committee earlier this year, and it was requested that it be held to get some additional community input. The planning board used one of its public hearings to reach out and seek community input, which it got in its August meeting, and then Councilmember Montgomery got some additional input at a town hall meeting that he had for the East Ward. And the upshot of all that is that while there's no particular historical significance to the name Linden Street, it basically follows along the names of other streets in the area that deal with trees or other forms of vegetation, such as Vine Street and all that. But there was no particular site-specific significance to Linden Street in and of itself. One of the inputs that we got at the planning board was a woman from the old Ballou Street neighborhood that got cut off by US 52 when it was built, and she talked about the neighborhood in that area and really felt like that needed to be memorialized in some way, perhaps through a historic marker or something like that. So that is the input that came forward from the planning board as they recommended.
And where's that neighborhood on this
HHC.
map? Where would it be?
It actually, Ballou Street runs east-west. You can't see it on the map because it doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, but it was this area that is now,
Right, where you see C.E. Gray Drive, I believe that was actually a portion of Ballou Street that it was renamed several
Okay,
years ago.
gotcha.
And it extended across what is now 52 and connected in with the street network that you see in the research park.
so it kind of disappeared when 52 was put in?
Right,
Okay.
right. The major part of it did.
And then what's the name of that neighborhood again?
The Ballous Street neighborhood, kind of like Ballous Lake.
Okay.
So again, we're back to the recommendation of changing Linden Street to North Research Parkway, which will then give it a continuous street name all the way through.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, comments? Ms. Montgomery, this is in your ward, I believe.
Right, and as I stated, we had some additional conversation from community. One thing that is added to this, somewhat that I disagree with on a point, I think that we do need to go ahead and make some changes to have some continuity on the road. But one thing I'm not necessarily willing to do as of yet is that there are some statements made about how this would be retained in terms of the historic nature, not just of talking about the street itself, which we attack historic connotation, not just to the street, but the history that's associated with the neighborhood. Actually, at the town hall meeting, Senator Erling Parman spoke as well on this matter. She actually grew up 2 blocks away from Linden Street and talked about some of the history of the neighborhood and the individuals that associated there with it. And so for me, it's if we're going to do something, the individual that I've had conversation with who are happy that we have extended the opportunity for public comment and additional in there, is that we make a decision, whether it's us or it's the research park, of how that historic nature of retaining that history is made prior to changing this, because what I've come to understand is if you don't get it on the front end, oftentimes you're not going to get that later on. And so to me, that is where I am with that.
I guess I'm thinking, don't we have the Historic Commission? Aren't they the ones in charge of the plaques and things?
Right, right.
Could we not
Yeah.
direct them to research this and come up with something appropriate?
Sure.
And I believe we do a couple of plaques a year, or markers.
And when council directs, we can do additional ones.
Okay. Ms. Montgomery, would it be okay if we directed staff to get up with the Historic Commission to address this? Because someone's got to research it and all that.
Right.
stuff.
Well, if it's actually going to be some type of historic representation done, not just say we're going to research it, but if the end result will be some type of historic, something that actually speaks to the community that existed in there. Because what I can tell you is that there was not much opportunity at the time when 52 was done for the neighborhood to get that. And so this is an opportunity for them to have some type of representation. And so I will agree with it if the end game is going to be that, not just something that tells us about the history of it, and that's it, that we get to see, but something that's actually put in that area.
Molly, go ahead.
Oh, tell me, What area you're talking about, Derwin? Are you talking about the Patterson, 7th Street, 5th Street area, or down here in where Ballou Street was?
Well, the naming of that, the Linden Street portion comes through all that, but I'm talking about that whole area. That area previously was home to individual houses and neighborhoods that existed there. And so what I've heard is that the fact that there was not opportunity for those who were there to have that history retained, that when 52 came through, that they didn't have the opportunity to really have that history retained in any type of way. And so for me, Linden Street was a part of that history. Even if it's the name of a tree, Linden Street was a part of the neighborhood. And so by renaming that, that now takes that additional part away from that. So for me, if we're going to rename it as a part of this, I want it to be conclusive that this is going to be something that's going to be retained, some type of history part. And it's even the Blue Street part, the neighborhood, and then other parts that homes existed in the neighborhood that was there.
Yeah, certainly up on the Patterson, 7th Street and everything. That was, around Goler was a thriving neighborhood, but most of that's now under parking lots, isn't it?
Mhm.
Yeah, so I think it would be lovely to have something commemorating it.
Isn't there a plaque already up there near Goler, a marker up that way?
I believe there is. I think from what I heard at the planning board from the woman who came from the Blue Street neighborhood, there was more of a contiguous neighborhood that stretched into what this middle part of the research park is, and extended toward the north. I think there were other areas of housing that were in spots in between the different factory buildings interspersed around there. So I think it would probably make some sense, given what I've heard, that there be something in this southern area there, because it does have a different context than the area up toward Goler.
Lee?
I would suggest, and did have some initial conversations with Dr. Tomlinson, that we approach the park staff as well about how, so that we don't just put up a marker, that we also find some ways that they can memorialize that history. Many of the residents who lived in those neighborhoods worked in those buildings, and so there's a lot of history that I think they should partner with us to record.
Okay, all right, okay. Yeah, Dee Dee.
Yeah, again, been down this one, and we'll probably go down it again. Again, I think we need to make very sure that a part of this community's history that is rooted in community is not erased due to economic development. We need it, but you gotta respect the history. Like when we did Hope 6 in Kimberly, been there forever. And then, I don't know who did it, but they changed all the streets. And people would tell you that grew up on Lime and Trade and Dairy and all of that, they're like, they took our streets. And we have to be careful of that, because when people talk about where they grew up and where they're from, all of us can remember the streets that we lived on growing up. And we can somehow, if they're still there, take them to people. But again, I caution us, just like Chatham Mills development, we gotta be careful that it's not always streets that come into that used to be African-American streets. I don't know how we do that, but we need to understand that people are very sensitive about that. I know I am.
Well, Lee, would it be appropriate to go to the Historic Commission, or just for the staff to work with Wake Forest somehow to, because I could see maybe a plaque on the building versus a marker.
And maybe some pictures and photos somewhere inside one of the buildings as well, to some of that living history. I think this committee could direct staff from planning and city staff to work with Wake Forest and then bring something back through the Historic Resources Commission and City Council.
Yeah, because I think the commission, that's their charge. I don't think we should go around them.
No.
Okay, Ms.
And I might suggest that you work with the New Winston Museum, because they have amazing photos of all over, the early photos of Winston-Salem. So.
I do think this is going to be a challenge in that this neighborhood disappeared. 52 was built in the early 60s,
I'd say late 50s.
Late
early
50s.
late
60s.
50s, so we're going back almost
Over
60 years. So I think it is going to take some effort to research it. Yeah.
And, you know, Dr. Thomason did state at the town hall meeting that he was committed to doing something. And for me, again, you know, I think that they'll live up to certain things, but words mean one thing and action means a totally different thing. And just for me, that's what I need to be able to have something more concrete than just say that we're going to do it.
Because he also may want to research and show, the before pictures of the factories. You know, that's some history too there. Okay.
Well, and there's certain things that would be appropriate for a plaque,
Yeah.
marker, and then certain things, as the manager was saying, would be appropriate to memorialize by pictures and photographs and all that were inside buildings
Okay.
that are in that area.
Would it be okay with the committee that we direct the city staff to meet with the Wake Forest folks on this topic, and also work with the Historic Commission so we got all our bases covered? Okay. Is there a motion as far as the actual renaming?
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
I think it's a safety issue.
Yeah, I do too. I am concerned about the same road having two different names. Any other discussion? Yes, ma'am.
Is the road available and open?
Yes.
It's
Yes.
open?
Yeah,
I use it.
yeah. Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
We have 2 yeses, 1 no, and 1 abstention. Thank you. Next item, please.
Resolution authorizing a lease agreement with Coliseum Park Plaza Corporation, providing space for the relocation of employee medical and HR training and engineer field office located at 710 Coliseum Drive.
Folks, this is in G2 in the Finance Department. This was discussed at the Finance Committee yesterday, and I know,
Mr. Chairman, if I'm the only one that hasn't heard, I believe I have, I'm familiar with it and don't need a review.
okay, was everyone else at the Finance yesterday? Okay.
Yes.
And I believe it was still held in
Held.
Held in committee for additional
for
information.
additional information. So unless there's an objection, we'll just hold it as well. Is that okay? All right. Next item, please. Q3.
Presentation on potential developer-funded roadway improvements at Country Club Road and Meadowlark Road.
Okay. This is actually in my ward, so I'll make a quick introduction. We do have coming in front of the full council Monday night a rezoning request on some property at the corner of Meadowlark and Country Club, which is almost at the western border of the city limits. The developer wanted an opportunity to present some of the project in general, but particularly the road improvements, which by the way, many of them were voluntarily donated to the city, which we certainly appreciate. And I'll let you introduce yourself in a minute, but let me just comment. We have 8 council members by ward, and I will say loosely speaking, the city looks like a pie chart, although it takes some imagination to do that. And you have here the north, south, east, west, and southwest. So you have 5 of the 8 folks here. So with that, if you'll introduce yourself, and we'll let you make your little presentation, then we'll ask any questions.
All right, let me get started. Hi, my name is David Brandes. I'm with Genesis Consulting Group North Carolina. I also represent Columbia Development. I appreciate y'all giving me a chance to come today. I didn't realize the text would be quite that small. I'll have to do some reading for you.
Hang on, we have a screen here too.
Good, okay, excellent.
It's on now, okay.
Still,
It's still
It's a little small, but that's okay. I can talk you through it, I believe.
Okay.
I'll give you just a quick background. This is a piece of property that's from 1998, has been zoned for a shopping center. The initial use was a mixed use. It includes some apartment complex, which was built right about that time, and then a shopping area. It's about 71,000 square feet on the 1998 plan. It was due to a number of things. What happened in September 11th, 2001 certainly impacted this area, and as well as the recent recession. But with what's happening in the economy, it's been looked at again by our client, Columbia Development, and we've brought in front of the city a plan that includes some upgrades to what we think was the shopping center mode. It basically broke the project up into individual lots instead of us having one mass shopping center. And in your code, a shopping center code requires a minimum of 35,000 square foot single use with at least 3 connected uses, meaning they can't be separated, they have to share a common wall. And so we've been working very hard with the community. Mr. Clark has been very much involved in helping us discuss it with the public, on asking for a rezoning. Included in that rezoning is some impacts to traffic, which is what we're here to tell you what we're talking about today. A traffic impact analysis was completed. The city, Winston-Salem, decided to move ahead on that on your own to get a third party to look at it. There were so many questions, potential conflicts of interest, that they wanted a third party to come and take a look at it. And it recommended several improvements. And I'll go through those. I'll read those to you because I know this is a little difficult to read, and then I'll give it to you sort of graphically. The first thing is that we are building a dedicated right turn from Meadowlark into the development. We're extending a left turn on Meadowlark into the development, and there's a map after this, so I'll give it to you one more time. Along Country Club, there are additional right turn lanes at each entrance, and adding a left turn lane at Country Club to Country Club Lane, which is a new road into the development. One important element is that we're extending concrete medians on Country Club, what the DOT calls a negative access easement, meaning that once we establish these driveways along Country Club, there will be no additional driveways allowed on our side of the property. That'll be a deed-restricted negative easement that can only be removed by removal of that deed restriction. Additionally, we're also placing a center concrete median to prevent left turns. This will also restrict movements on the opposite side, so it really sort of defines the traffic in this area for years to come. Incidentally, NCDOT is constructing a right turn lane northbound on Country Club to Meadowlark. This was recommended even before our development began. It's something they've had on the books for a while, and coincidentally got funded and is scheduled to start here in the next few months. This is the intersection of Meadowlark and Country Club. Meadowlark runs up and down, which is north and south. Country Club runs sideways, east and west. And that intersection is, thank you, Mr. Clark. That intersection is an important intersection for a number of reasons. To your east are a number of subdivisions. To your north is Brookbury Farms, as well as 2 schools, a middle school and an elementary school. Back to your left or to your west, it really takes you back into town, back into a more commercial area. And so this particular intersection of two-lane roads is definitely been stressed for a number of years. One of the things we're providing, you can see it just came up in yellow, and I'll animate it one more time just so you can see where we're coming in. We're going to extend the left turn lane beginning at the top of the slide so that there's a left turn into the development. This will allow us to separate traffic, and you'll see as we move forward that's become a big problem, is that because it's a single lane going into the approach, traffic would get snarled at that intersection. Beauchamp, or Beauchamp, I've heard it pronounced a number of different ways, is really almost a Y intersection. What we're doing here is teeing that intersection up. It's a dead-end road, but allowing it to be a 4-way intersection with our driveway to make it a better sight distance and a safer entrance. At the bottom, what we're doing is effectively building a 3-lane section along the entire run of Country Club, and this will allow us to build left turn lanes along the entire side of Country Club at particular entrances, and I'll go over those entrances with you on the next slide. One of the most important elements that we're doing is we're extending this left turn along Meadowlark that turns back to the east. This particular motion gets caught up in a heavy motion of people turning right from Meadowlark onto Country Club. So what would happen is if you wanted to take this particular movement, the amount of people who also want to take that right movement kind of kept you back from making it. You had no place to land, no place to go. So what we're doing is extending the entire front length of our frontage for our left turn. It's actually more storage than the traffic report requires, but it fit geometrically for us. And this will allow those left turns to not get mixed into the traffic that wants to take the right. You'll notice there's no this is a T intersection, there's no intersection going further south. Looking just at Country Club, this is the only left turn that will be constructed on Country Club, and that's the only entrance. You see 1, 2, 3, 4 entrances on Country Club. The first entrance is a right in, right out only. That's one that's the furthest to the left. This one, the yellow is being shown, is a full access left turn. As you move further down to the right, it's between the two green parcels. That is a restricted right in, right out. And then the farthest one is the existing entrance to Brookberry Farms, which currently has a left turn now.
Brookberry, that's the apartment.
Brookberry Apartments, I'm sorry, thank you. Also being constructed, as we mentioned, is a 4-foot concrete median that will prevent any body circumventing the right in, right outs. People will do that. This will keep them from doing that. There'll be no place for them to go. It also restricts access on the south side of the property for future development. It really defines what traffic will be in this area. We will maintain that left turn, and it's a little faint, you can see it just in the right, that goes into Burberry Apartments now. So there'll be two full dedicated left turn lanes. We've been asked how much storage is in these lanes. Because it's a full 3-lane section, we could effectively have the entire length as a storage for a left turn lane, but we've provided at this particular time 300 foot of storage, more than ample based on our traffic study, but it's simply paint. It can be painted out and extended. As you see as well, as I'm animating in, each of the right turn, right in, right outs will have a dedicated right turn lane. People who are wishing to decel into the property will have an ability to do that without slowing down traffic that comes through. All of these improvements are funded by the developer. They'll be paid for by private funds as the development of the property. We've committed to have these installed before any of the developments open. What you see in gray is the neighborhood grocery store, the Walmart neighborhood grocery. What you see in the far left, you see just a little tip of it, is the already approved sheets. Each of those have requirements to have these installed before the operations open. What you see in green are yet to be determined developments. We're working hard on trying to get tenants for those, but those should come along sometime after the completion of the other two. Mr. Clark mentioned some additional improvements. I don't have a graphic that shows it. We have not designed it yet, but let me go back up one slide. At this intersection, one of the worst constraints we've found is there's a very short, maybe 150-foot left turn that causes a lot of issues. That's That movement is about 400 vehicles in the peak hour versus about 600 total. So, 60% of the people who want to make that turn want to make that left turn. Conversely, coming back, about 60% want to make that right turn. And so what happens, it's so short that anyone who wants to go straight through is caught up in that motion and has to wait. So what we've committed to do is to build, extend that 150 foot another 300 feet, making it a total of 450 feet, all the way back fundamentally to the bridge, which exists just about where he's drawing. That's correct. And we believe that's way more than is required by the traffic analysis, but it's something that we think will benefit the entire community. Traffic, without question, every meeting we've had has begun with traffic. And it's ended with traffic, and traffic has been sprinkled through the middle of all the discussion. So we certainly want to do as much as we can and even more than required to help this situation. With that, I'll entertain any questions you might have.
Any questions or comments? This is just for information only. We will have a more detailed report at the council meeting, which will go over the building and things of that sort. But this is Public Works. We're just here to talk about roads right now. Questions, comments? Molly?
Just the Meadowlark intersection is actually signalized, is that correct?
That's correct.
There is also a signal way up here, Stires Ferry.
Stires
right in there.
Ferry, yeah, I
This
know.
traffic will back up at rush hour all the way to Stires Ferry.
And where is the bridge in relation to Stires Ferry and
It's
Meadowlark?
very close to Stires Ferry.
Okay.
Light, there's a light there.
Yeah, I'd say a couple hundred feet there. We're more like 700 feet.
I would say it's probably 800, 900 feet between the two, and it's probably 600 feet on this side of the bridge. Any other questions, comments?
Me.
Oh, excuse me.
How does your constituents feel about this?
I did, well, you kind of stealing my thunder for Monday night,
Okay.
but
All right,
I did have a committee put together, and all the neighborhoods did endorse it. But you'll hear the rest
Okay.
of the story. I mean, we've done a lot, and I don't want to take too much thunder away, but this is, I just want everybody to understand from a road standpoint what's taking place here.
okay.
I would also like to, by the way, he is the architect,
Engineer. but that's-
engineer, excuse me, I know, I keep getting you mixed up. There's also the developer who is working with the landowner, and then the third party is Walmart, who is one of the tenants. I mentioned that in that Lee and I guess Greg was there too, we did get to meet the regional manager of Walmart. She is out of Washington, D.C., and we did visit with her somewhat and are continuing to visit with her separately. It has nothing to do with this project, about some of the underserved areas. I think the correct term now is food deserts. Is that correct? Okay.
What is,
Yes, ma'am.
this is a.
No. This is totally different. This is, I switched topics on it.
Okay.
I just want to let everybody know that we took that opportunity to meet with them on that subject. Thank you very much, David. That is all we have on the agenda. Dan, go right ahead.
I just wanted to ensure I understood on item 1 on the agenda, the renaming of Linden Street.
Yes.
Want to make sure I understood correctly what I heard as I was coming in, the end of the discussion there. We anticipate there will be a report during the public hearing on this before council on what is proposed to be done to ensure that the name of the street is memorialized.
The neighborhood. I think it's more than just the streets, the whole neighborhood. Paul?
Let me just clarify that. This committee is actually the committee that has the public hearing, which you had earlier this year. So what the council action on Monday night will be to simply make final approval of whatever the recommendation of the Public Works Committee.
So we won't have the hearing, but there will be a report to us on Monday night
That
Well,
may be a little quick, because we got to go through the Historic Commission and everything else.
on what.
There will be a period of research and working with the Innovation Corridor, as well as getting the documentation together for the history of the neighborhood there. And the ways of memorializing the neighborhood may go in 2 or 3 different directions, so that's going to have to get worked out over a period of time, and then we will bring that back to the council.
Well, let me make it clear then. It was my anticipation in making the motion that in respect to Councilmember Montgomery's concern, that information would be presented before our final vote on the options that are available for this. So we'll understand that and can incorporate any requirements we want to make as a part of the approval.
I would rather do it right than do it quick. And I think what we're talking about here could be something fairly significant. It's not just the neighborhood, but we may want to memorialize the tobacco factories and the workers and everything else. I just think there's a lot that can be done
For
here,
the whole community.
the whole community.
And I'm not asking that a final report be made. I would like to see the full council hear information on.
Okay, we can certainly do that, yeah,
being-
yeah.
Being reviewed.
Because the neighborhood disappeared in the 50s, so we got to go back a long ways. But,
We're going to have a memo at your place.
Yeah.
Ms.
And it-
Silver.
well, it's on it'll be on the general agenda, so it wasn't unanimous, so we can
yeah, yeah.
tee that up and give a,
But I'd rather not rush in and throw something up real quick. I'd rather do it right. And I think Wake Forest will certainly be enthusiastic about it. That doesn't concern me, but I am concerned that we don't rush and do something haphazard.
No, I'm not asking for final
Okay.
decision.
We'll have something there. Okay. That's all on the agenda. Is there anything else to bring before the committee? If not, we'll stand adjourned.